The motivation for men going their own way is misunderstood. Males are fundamentally rational, are we not? If we're choosing to walk away from relationships, as many are, the most obvious reason would be that the benefits are not worth the risks and costs.
Run.
This explanation has to be a big part of the MGTOW trend. So why do many people assume anything else? Why don't people simply trust those explaining their own motivation?
Warning, you are still being pursued.
Men do have an emotional side, of course, but we don't rely on just our feelings when making important decisions. The idea that solo men hate women is overstated, to say the least. I want to explain why that interpretation is thoughtless and off the mark, but that's not all. We need to clear up the real reasons men are going their own way. The truth is that men who go it alone are often highly principled. They love their mothers, their sisters, and their daughters if they have them. It's not about disliking women as such, but about not liking the relationship options they're presented with. These are men who know their value, and that makes it much harder to compromise themselves just to end up with a low-value woman in a toxic relationship. You can see why people might assume single men dislike women. They're choosing not to pursue relationships after all. But you just have to look back a few generations to understand that this is not the case. There was a time when almost every man got married and those unions generally lasted. So what changed? The nature of men certainly isn't one of them. On some level, almost every man feels the pull to be with a woman.
Run.
One clue to what happened is the average age of getting married. People often met in their late teens. Marrying a virgin was commonplace, but everything has changed. I don't believe men have been taught to dislike women. If anything, we've been taught to hate ourselves. From a young age, boys are told to suppress their instincts, to be less aggressive, less competitive, less toxic. Masculinity is treated like a problem to be managed, not a strength to be understood and respected. Meanwhile, girls are uplifted and told they can do anything. And fair enough when done in moderation. Supporting girls isn't the issue. The problem is that boys and masculinity are attacked to the point where young men feel like they should be apologizing for existing. So when men start noticing that the relationship game seems rigged, that being a good man doesn't protect them from betrayal or false accusations, they don't react by getting angry with women. They tend to blame themselves at first. That's what they've been conditioned to do. It takes a lot of thinking and often a lot of pain before a man seriously considers walking away. This is the logical conclusion reached when reality no longer supports our dreams. It's the final stage of clarity after years of trying to make things work in a system that doesn't reward effort or loyalty. Rationality is perhaps the defining feature of men who go their own way. It takes calculation to make this decision, although some find it easy. Think about the options men have today compared to the past. Say you were a 22-year-old in the first part of the previous century. You had options to marry a 19 or 20-year-old woman with little or no sexual experience. She was ready to bond with you and commit to a life together, raising a family. You each had your roles, and she would respect your role as provider and protector just as much as you respected her role as wife and mother. What men are facing now is a kind of social and relational dystopia. Dating used to be simple. You found someone, you built a life. The goal was family, not constantly chasing emotional highs. Today, men step into a world of confusion. The expectations placed on them are vague, shifting, and often contradictory. They're told to lead but not dominate, to be emotionally open but never weak, to give everything but expect little in return. And behind it all is a dating market where the rules have changed. Now we're looking at the option of dating older women whose motivations are unclear. They've been in the market so long, the point of it all seems to be lost. You have to achieve instant chemistry and connection. One feeling of the ick, and it might be over. You're being compared to a string of past sexual encounters, all blended together to create the image of the ideal man who doesn't exist. It can feel impossible. Women are told they should look for a soulmate, a best friend, someone who meets them on every emotional level. They're not thinking about building a life, they're thinking about how it feels. In the past, a man and woman married to face life together. Each had a role, each knew what was expected. It wasn't about constant romance, it was about shared responsibility and long-term trust. Now that foundation is gone. Feminism didn't teach women how to cooperate with men, it taught them to be suspicious of them. Power was framed as something men hoarded and women had to seize. The result is generations of women hypersensitive to anything they perceive as dominance. Normal male behavior like decisiveness, protectiveness, even confidence is now read as controlling. Many men feel like they're constantly on trial. This is the dystopia, a relationship culture that demands more of men than ever before, while offering less in return. And if you speak up, you're sad and bitter. If you walk away, you must hate women. But male independence isn't about hate, it's about seeing the truth and refusing to play a rigged game. Thriving on your own actually takes some qualities that weaker men may lack. It's not easy to step away from what society expects of you, especially when so much of a man's worth has traditionally been tied to who he provides for. Going your own way forces you to confront the silence, to find structure in your own life, and to carry meaning without being needed by someone else. That takes strength. It also takes a clear mind. A man who chooses this path isn't usually just drifting, he sees what's going on, he knows his own value and isn't about to waste it chasing approval. His time, his freedom and his sanity are too important. He's not running from responsibility, he's taking control of his life. You can see why feminists and their male allies have a problem with men opting out of relationships. It's an indictment of the value of the modern woman to a man. These same people are fine with the idea that women don't need men, but they hate it when the same argument is reversed on them. When a man says, "I don't need a woman," he's not attacking anyone. He's observing that the trade on offer no longer appeals to him, that her presence doesn't automatically improve his life. And in a world that constantly reinforces female value, this is seen as a threat. The truth is that walking away puts a mirror up. It forces women to consider not just what they expect from a partner, but what they actually bring. Not in theory, not on paper, but in practice. And for many, that's uncomfortable. Men do realize that there are good women out there. They would welcome a healthy relationship, but it's just not realistic. Attraction doesn't follow logic and isn't within a man's control, so you can't simply choose someone who is stable and sensible. The same is true on the other side. Men have limited control over who they attract. You can improve yourself, sure, but the connection still has to be mutual. And even when it is, that's only the beginning. A lot of women put on a facade. They say the right things, they appear agreeable, they talk about loyalty and family, but that doesn't mean they'll stay that way. Many men have entered marriages that looked promising. They believed in love, trusted the words, and committed fully, only to have it unravel in ways they never imagined. You can read all the advice, spot the red flags, take your time, and still end up blindsided. The number of divorced men is not a small anomaly, it's massive, and a huge proportion of them don't just lose their marriages, they lose access to their children, their homes, their peace of mind. Some are falsely accused, some are robbed of wealth they spent decades earning. That's not something you can shrug off as bad luck or poor judgment. It reflects basic problems in the system itself. And the worst part, when that marriage ends, that man is often already in his 40s. He's now re-entering the dating world with battle scars and baggage, only to find a market flooded with overweight, middle-aged women who have baggage of their own and high expectations to match. The trade-off just doesn't make sense anymore. So when a man says he's unwilling to take that risk, it's not cynicism, it's realism. Let's go a step further. There's a kind of nobility in going your own way, not because it's bold or dramatic, but because it goes against everything he's been told to want. It takes strength to walk away from a system that once promised meaning. It takes pride to stand alone rather than lower yourself for the sake of fitting in. A man doesn't choose this path because he's defeated. He chooses it because he sees through the deal and knows he's worth more. The men who make this choice aren't cold or unfeeling. In many cases, they're the very men who would have been loyal, protective, and committed if the conditions were right. But they see what's on offer now. They see what's rewarded and what's punished. And they choose to walk away from a deal that demands too much and gives too little. They've been told they're not needed, that their instincts are a threat, that masculinity is outdated unless softened beyond recognition. They don't believe this narrative, but they hear it clearly, and instead of pushing against a wall that won't move, they take the only rational option left. They walk. And here's the insanity of it all. The same culture that pushed these men out now turns to punish them for stepping outside the script. It points fingers, assigns blame, and treats male independence as a threat to the social rules it invented to keep them in line. But what exactly are they supposed to come back to? You can't vilify men for existing, strip away their roles, question their intentions, and then act shocked when they stop showing up. You can't push them out and then accuse them of abandonment. Demonizing men isn't a solution to male withdrawal, it's the cause of it. And doubling down only deepens the damage, not just to men, but to society as a whole. If men are stepping away from relationships, from marriage, from family life, it's not because they've given up necessarily. It's because they've been told in 100 different ways that they're not wanted. And eventually, good men stop trying to prove their worth to a world that refuses to see it.